Get your action figures at Big Bad Toy Store at the link in the description.
Dragon Ball, horror, kaiju, and more. Steven's Toy Reviews.
Hey there, collectors. It's going to be Steven here, and welcome to another review. We're going to be taking a look at some dinosaurs today, and today we're going to be taking a look at Axytoys Tyrannosaurus Rex Warrior King figure. Depending on which one you look at, the listing online, the proper title will be in the review. They're big. They're bad. There's 3 of them. Different colors, 1 limited edition, and in classic STR fashion, we're going balls to the wall. We got to take a look at all of them because chances are you may not know which one you want to take a look at. So let's take a look to see whether or not they're going to be worth adding into your collection. I got to go quick on this one because it's going to be a long review, but you're going to want to stick around. Steven's going in depth for you. All right, so for the sculpt and paint section, we're really just going to go ahead and look at the violet one because that's going to be the only one that matters. Actually, we're just going to look at... Nah, I'm just pulling your leg. We're going to look at all of them. Don't worry. So first and foremost, we're doing the 360 spin view for the violet one. Then we're going to transition over to the red one and then transition over to the black. Then don't worry. We're going to take a look at them all decked out in their armor. The armor will come later for the macro photography. So when we are looking at all of these nice monstrosity figures without the armor, we can really see that there are a lot of fine details. I will admittedly focus on the violet figure throughout the review because I have seen some other reviews that have been posted and a lot of other pictures that have not focused on the violet as much. I don't know if that was because review samples were sent out that did not include the violet because that one is a limited production run of only 800 units. And I think this is one I would rather focus in on in case you're looking to spend the extra coin to make sure you're able to get that. But likewise, we are going to take a look at all 3, but I'm able to say ceteris paribus, which is fancy scientific talk for all things considered equal, that these figures all look great and they all serve their unique roles and they can each have a unique look, including where we have the armor set up. You can even have nice fancy displays like you have the blue king, the red king, and then you can have the false king if that's something you want to do. That's sort of my headcanon with each one of these 3. Now, breaking it down to the nice, simple description of each of them, they do have their own individual cast in plastic. You can guess which one is going to be which based on the color, but when we take a closer look at the paint applications and so forth, there is a fantastic blending and shading and gradient found on all of them when it comes to the claws, when it comes to the nice chest, which I already know based on some comments what's going to come, so go ahead, post it there. And we do have some fantastic lines that are going to be found on the figures. I mean, really, I can just go on, and that's kind of what I'm doing right now because I'm going to need some filler here to really get these pictures in to sell these. I mean, we have Tamashii Nations who are doing Godzilla figures, and admittedly, they're smaller, but they can't hold a candle to this. And admittedly, again, this is going to be a bigger canvas, but when we have something that looks this good, and that's going to be about, $100 per unit, the violet one costing between 25 and 50 more, it's very difficult to say that these are not worth the price. Spoiler alert, I'm going to give a high recommendation for these compared to what else is on the market from import companies. So yeah, not only is this going to get my overall seal of approval, go ahead and close out. Not really, you're going to want to see what I have to say, but these all look fantastic. And they look great. Toes! Toe Wiggler. Dinosaur, T-Rex articulation is really cool without the armor. We will take a brief overview of what this dude can do with the armor on. And as a matter of fact, we will play dress up once we get this section taken care of. But for the articulation, this thing is really sweet and actually impressed me. I actually don't like this view now that I have it set up, so we'll just do a quick change. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, so for the jaw, it's going to be on a hinge. It opens and closes like that. Wow. Oh, you notice something there. So depending on how you have the head positioned, that is going to affect the range of movement on the jaw. So it does open and close, but we do have, it's actually easier just to kind of pop it off. So if you look in here, we have the head, which plugs into a ball joint here. Okay, you see that? And then that socket breaks off into a double axis or barbell style joint, and then that plugs into the neck. So hopefully this will cooperate, because sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And it didn't want to there, but if you are able to finagle that around, you can then move the head up a little bit more, and just like that, you can get the jaw to open a bit wider, just like so, which is really cool. Now, you're probably wondering, why did I show you specifically that movement? Because we can get the T-Rex to look up about that far, which once again, wider jaw, look down. Look at that movement, 2 points, which is great. We can get him to look left. You can see the joint. And look right. So everything for the head works wonders. I really, really do love the setup that they have. So kudos to them for that. For the shoulders, they are plugged in on a ball joint, so we can rock them around, which looks great, right? And we can spin the arms around. Everything is fine here. For aesthetic reasons, this is a floating piece. So when you may get it out of the box, it may look like that, which is offset. You can even see just from moving around over here, because the actual color for the arm is supposed to be like that, but just pointing it out for you to fix. So you saw the range of movement for the arm. Looks great. We can T-pose just fine. No issues. And then it's implied you can get like butterfly hinge movement out of the ball joint there. Okay, so you can move the arm back like that. Yeah, you get the point. Now, this is what kind of impressed me, because I saw a few people get this wrong. Technically, no bicep swivel, because this is just a floating piece. This is just a sleeve covering the inner workings of the joint. So we do have a hinge, and that is a very nice single hinge. Now, there is a bicep swivel, but it's more so a swivel at the elbow that this bicep piece is covering up. I mean, if you want to get technical, you get what I'm saying, but that is really, really neat. So depending on how you position that sculpt on the bicep, you can even get just a little bit more movement. That's really cool. I really like the way they engineered the arms. So that's really, really neat. For the wrists, standard style humanoid wrist joint, we have a peg that plugs into the forearm, a hinge, and then a ball joint for the hands. So I'll go ahead and pop a hand off here so you can see that I'm not lying to you. So just be mindful of rotating so you can get the hinge to work correctly. We do have a ball joint, double axis as you can see, barbell style for the ab crunch. Rotate that way, rock back and forth, twist and turn. A ball joint for the waist. Now, here's where it's kind of a bit disappointing. We do have a soft plastic for the pelvis, right? Okay. Kicking forward, even if we were to rock the T-Rex a bit back, that is about the extent of the movement. Forward and then back is like that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead a little bit here. We do have a thigh swivel that allows for just a little bit more range of movement. So even though this is made of soft plastic, it still doesn't help as much as it maybe could to get him to kick his leg as far forward as we would maybe like. So something to keep in mind. But when we kick off to the side, excuse me, arm, just fine there. And as you can see, those are ball joints. Okay, double hinge knees. Fantastic, right? Ankles, hinge, and ankle rocker movement. Can we twist at the ankle, like a boot swivel or something? No, but we get toe hinges. So all the little toesies, they can go up, and they can go down. I just reviewed the Monster Arts Godzilla -1 figure. This is what it should have done. They do also swivel. So if you want to play with these little piggies, you can. The tail. I'm a bit confused as exactly what they're doing with the tails in this line. Because, I mean, these are really easy to pop in and pop out. I don't even really need the heater in any way. So this is on a hinge, up and down, and you can see sort of where a groove is to where it's supposed to plug in, right? So we can get a little bit of movement up, which is good. With the armor, that sort of hides that. We push it down, sort of sits flush. You got to push it back in a little bit. But when it comes to the actual tail, like I've seen some people able to like crank it and do this and do that with it, but mine just sort of wants to revert back to how it was out of the package. So I don't know if there's a bendy wire in this or not. The little ventilation holes indicate that there would be a bendy wire in there, but I don't know. Anyway, T-Rex, even without this movement, it's fine, moves exceptionally well, and this is just seriously so fun to fiddle with. Now, we got to play dress up, and we got to get him in his battle uniform, so let's go ahead and do that. Okie dokie, now let's play a game of dress up a T-Rex, which this is going to be pretty fun. Albeit a little bit difficult on your first time if you don't have a guide and you actually don't have a reference picture. So I would definitely say pull up a guide, which is basically just going to be one of the stock photos, or play along at home with the video. That was kind of difficult to walk and chew gum at the same time, if you will, where I'm recording and making sure I have everything correct. So basically, this is going to be the same if you have the black or the red one, but if you do have the violet one, it's going to be similar because there are a couple of parts that are different, but they effectively have the same things and they go in the same area. They're just a little bit different, and we'll talk about the differences in just a little bit. I'll actually have some pictures of what those differences are. But when you do open the deluxe version, the one with the armor out of the box, we do have the belt with the furry knot loincloth attached already. We do have the shin guards and the gauntlets already attached. From there, I would recommend putting on the necklace, and then we do have the shoulder guards, the pads. You're going to be able to put the pads on with little bolts that come on in the package. They're going to be in a little baggie. I would say put the bolts in through the shoulder pads first and then put it into the holes on the back. That made it easier for me. Don't worry about the crown, the helmet, we'll put that on last. Then we're going to have little pegs. These pegs are going to be found in the baggie. We get 2 of all of them. So when we get done, you will have 2 left over if you opt in for the alternate way to have the helmet on your T-Rex, but we'll talk about that more in a second. So for the black and the red one, they're going to look nearly identical. There are going to be no differences, and they're actually going to have blue dangly bits off of them. But when we take a look at the shoulder pads, what's going to happen is you're going to have 2 little gold loops. You're going to want to make sure those are flipped up. When it comes to the bones on the belt, they're going to go in the order of the little hook that has the black tip, then you're going to have the 2 bones closer to the skull on the belt, and then you're going to have the odd man on the right. When it comes to the violet one, it's going to look a little bit different, and it's going to have a little hand part. Again, we'll take a picture of that later. Then when it comes to the arms, they're going to have little blade parts, which is pretty neat. When it comes to the shoulder, when it comes to the ankle guards, that's going to be a little bit different for the spikes compared to the violet one, as well as the ones on the hips. Now, when it comes to the helmet or the crown, there is going to be an elastic band that you're going to have to pull. It has a lot of give, so don't worry about really stretching this. It's not a big deal. And you're going to slip this over the jaw and then just slip this top part over the head, and you'll be good to go. As we'll see, this does restrict the jaw movement a bit. Now, you do have the Triceratops, please don't kill me in the comments, that is going to plug into the helmet. Or there are going to be 2 holes in there. You're going to have 2 extra spikes, 2 sets to be exact, and those can go in there as well if you would like, so you don't have to use the Triceratops skull for the crown or the helmet on your T-Rex. So now that is taken care of. That is effectively going to be the accessories, except for just a few other things that we'll talk about in a second. So here is how everything looks, and then there is going to be the cape that you are just going to fold over and connect into the loops. So that's why you flip the gold ones up, because you do have the 2 dangly bits that just connect in there. So you followed the guide. Now here, as we sync up, is what your T-Rex will look like with everything attached. I do want to stress, make sure you put on the necklace first, because you will not be able to slip that over the whole helmet side. Okay? I really do hope that that makes sense. So for the articulation now, as you may be able to assume, it is restrictive. So let's just do a quick refocus in. For the shoulders, as we go ahead and move them, yes, we can still move them up and get them into a T-pose, but as you can see, it kind of knocks this around a little bit, and we still have the same joints that are all here, but one of the things you may see is that we do have everything. Oh, you see, I'm pushing this around, and then as we move the legs, oh, See, that's where the big issue comes in. We do knock all the dangly bits that have to hook on off. You just have to really be careful if you're going to get this guy, or gal, again, whatever, into some poses to make sure that you're not going to knock anything off, or if you do, make sure that you are keeping a close eye on that. Now, when we do move your T-Rex around, again, we do retain the same joints. None of the joints were changed, but we do have some areas, like at the hips, where we do have the cloth thing, whatever you want to call that, that does somewhat get in the way. And with that, you may not be able to get the full splits in there. And then we have things like the tail, which if you're going to go ahead and move that all the way up, you can, but you do have to be mindful of the belt buckle that's back here, which doesn't really get in the way, but you may not notice that the tail is starting to slip out. So it's kind of nitpicky, but just something to keep in mind if you're not really careful with your stuff, that this is something that might happen. I do also have some broken wire in my capes for my T-Rex. For the black one, I do have a wire that is poking out here. And then for the red one, I forget where specifically, but we do have breakage as well, which is a bit disappointing, but nevertheless, it's there. So, just doing a quick look, you're going to have the wrist joint, which is blocked not really by the gauntlet. So yes, there is some joint restriction, but surprisingly, not all that much. Depends on your experience, I would say. Now, this will be a good time to do a side-by-side comparison of some areas for the different armor parts. Like I said before, the red and the black one, they're going to have basically interchangeable armor parts. You don't have to worry about that if you get both of them and you swap them out. Don't worry about that. When it comes to the violet one, however, basically he's going to have some more bloodied up armor parts and he's going to have consistent copper parts. For the red and the black one, if you take a look at the shin guards, you're going to notice that there are two slightly different colors of gold or copper, if you will, that are going to be included there. Also, as made mention, there are going to be different little spikes or horn parts that are used in a few areas, and you're going to see those here, one and then the other, just because I can't get them both on the screen at the same time and make it look good. Now, when we're going to go ahead and quickly just sort of snap back here to video, we do have some other accessories, which I really wouldn't consider these accessories since this is going to be armor for the deluxe version. And as you saw, you can pop all of these parts off. You actually literally have to use the buckles to pull everything off. We do have some other accessories, which we're going to have this sort of axe piece. We're going to have a sword, which is really cool. And then just in case you do snap this band that goes on for the helmet, we do get this little baggie, which does include an extra elastic rubber band with the little, guiding piece, I guess you may say, to make sure that everything is safe for you to go ahead and replace that along with, I'm assuming this is double-sided tape, the 3M, if you would prefer to use that instead of the band. So it's good to have a backup. Now, if you were to get this, it's noted as a pre-order gift of some kind. I don't really know how this may work if you have to get it as a first production run because it's included in the box. You do get this very unique club, this hammer, which is really cool. And this is interchangeable with all of the different weapons because the idea is first initially, and I'll show you the pictures, is you can attach these together and you can create one big weapon. But you take this metal pole, which has its issues in and of itself, and then you can plug it in here and you can create a bigger weapon. Now with that, this pole likes to get stuck in the sword. Now it initially comes in the box attached to the axe, and then when you go ahead and let's say attach it to the sword, then you go ahead and pop it out and it gets stuck in here. You're gonna have to use heat and pop it out. This is metal. Good luck heating up metal and pulling it out safely. Get a rag and you'll be fine. Now with that being said, there are what are called hard points in the Gundam Gunpla community all throughout this figure. That's what these little holes on the parts of the armor are going to be. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and take a look at all of the different poses that we can sort of achieve with the different weapons for the T-Rex kings right now without the armor. So you can see the flexibility without the armor. We basically have no restrictions and we can get a look at the weapons. So we're going to have the black, the red, and the violet, and they all look really cool. And this is pretty neat. Actually, I really like this. You can get a lot of fun and they can achieve some cool poses. But here for the last one, you're going to see something really cool. There's a hidden feature with the Triceratops skull. It actually uses the same metal pole as the weapons. That's right. So it uses exactly the same metal pole, the dimensions and everything, as the weapon. So if you wanted to, you can mix and match in any way for any of the weapons, and you can achieve that, most notably with that little mace, the club, and you can go ahead and get a hammer with a Triceratops skull on it. That's a Monster Hunter stuff here, right? So here's going to be a quick gallery with the T-Rex Kings all decked out and taking on some neat poses and even a nice shot with the Monster Arts Kong. I think that's pretty cool. So when it comes to accessories, that's all pretty neat and fine and dandy. They all come decked out with armor if you pick up the deluxe set and weapons, which is really cool. If you do get the figures without the armor, then they're going to be cheaper, but you miss out on a whole bunch of cool stuff. For the violet one as well, since it is a limited edition of 800 figures, you do get a commemorative gold card. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is made of, but it is pretty solid. It has a little bit of a feel to it, sort of like lines into it. It's kind of like one of those old holographic cards, and yours is individually numbered, which is really cool. If you need other weapons or effect parts, I have videos to help you out, but considering these big old hands, I don't really know what else could be said. Real quick, for the right hand, we get a pointing finger, and for the left hand, we do get a morso splayed out for all three figures, as you can see in the photos. All right, size comparison. These things are huge. It notes 1/12 scale. These typically are better for Mythic Legion size. That's sort of kind of not how they are advertised. So if you do collect that line or the like, then these will fit very, very well on your shelf. So buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. What is a king without his queen? That's the idea here for the picture. Overall, I do have to say that this is a really nice purchase, and honestly, I would not bother with getting the ones without the armor. I think these are great figures, and honestly, we three kings. That's in the thumbnail. That is the notion behind this. I think these are great. I think these are worth picking up. If you had to get one, I prefer in a tier list, the violet. It's going to be the most expensive, but I think it's the best one. Then I would go with the red, and then I would go with the black. But honestly, if you pick any of them up, I think you're going to have a winner here. I think that Axy Toys, they've done a great job improving from their initial release. I can't wait to see what comes next.